Welcome to the Sportsline Podcast. I'm Andrew Damelin, sitting in for Bubba O'Neill. We continue our December series of Mac Mondays with another incredible athlete. He is a pitcher from the Marauders baseball team, a fifth-year undergrad student in social sciences, and the president of McMaster's Indigenous Student Athlete Council. His name is Seth Cabezas. Seth, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Thank you. I'm good. Thanks for coming in. We really appreciate it. So you're a pitcher for the team, but you got a sort of decorated athletic history, actually, that I want to get into. But in terms of pitching, growing up in Hamilton born and raised, what's your first memory of stepping on the mound and throwing maybe a fastball?
Maybe a fastball. Well, my first baseball memory, honestly, was when I used to play blast ball, which is like even before T-ball, and they had these big, like, slow pitch balls that you used and you hit off the tee, and they had like the bases that you ran around, and when you jumped on them they would like squeak and stuff like that, and that's kind of my first memory playing baseball in Hamilton. And then I do kind of remember the first time I was pitching was with the Hamilton Cardinals youth program. So yeah, it's always been something I loved doing. Baseball was kind of my first love for sure. So.
And with the Jays making that big run this year, and Trey Savage coming up out of nowhere, and his arm angle being a big point of discussion, and the mechanics and the pitch selection and the one-on-one matchup is something I've always been fascinated by. Growing up, getting into it, getting more serious as you were a teenager, what do you remember of sort of the mechanics aspect of it and every little detail from that pitching perspective?
Yeah, I remember I was like a big mechanics guy growing up when I was younger, especially, and really taking baseball seriously. I had a pitching coach, Dennis Reynolds. He was an ex-pro guy, and he was awesome to work with growing up as a kid. Shout out Dennis. And yeah, we would just work on the basics all the time, and location was a big thing to focus on, and I was always really good at being able to pick the corners at a young age. And at Mac, we talk a lot about pitch selection and, pitch tunneling, and I think it's an underrated part of the game that not a lot of people fully understand if you're not in the baseball world. But it's a big mental game, and it really is, like you said, that one-on-one battle, that one-on-one matchup, and kind of like who's going to outsmart who, and my grandpa always used to tell me, it's all about the next pitch. So if I can win that next pitch, that was always my goal. I just need to win this pitch.
So you embrace every aspect of the game, and there's another sport that you play where I hear that it's way more mental than it is physical. You play the quarterback position. You were actually a quarterback in your first year for U of T a couple of years before transferring over to McMaster. A question that NFL quarterbacks always get asked is, what percentage of the quarterback position is talent, arm strength, fitting it through a window, versus the studying, the mental aspect of the game? Can you assign a percentage to that?
Yeah, honestly, like I'd probably say it's like 80-20, like 80 mental, about 20% physical. Like I think a lot of people can throw a ball, throw a football hard, throw it well. But I think understanding, when to throw it, being able to just understand your job as a quarterback, you know what I mean? There's so many aspects that, to kind of go through. You have your checklist pre-snap, when the ball's snapped, what you got to do with it. And yeah, I think even while I'm coaching now, like I try to coach the mental part of the game even before, trying to establish or elevate their physical aspects as well. So yeah, I would definitely say 80% mental and 20% physical for sure.
Do you coach football as well?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, so the progression aspect of it, I love seeing it. I love when there's a good analyst too that's breaking it down for you.
Yeah.
Josh Allen yesterday just looking, and Phillip Rivers coming back as a 44-year-old grandfather. Awesome. Mm-hmm. The progression aspect of it, the film study aspect of it, to me, it's like, okay, you can sit down, you can study the film, but when the cars are flying at you going 100 miles an hour, it's a whole different story. But in your learning of the progressions, what was sort of the biggest lesson to take away when trying to then go out and apply it at full speed during a game?
Yeah, like I think the biggest thing I talk about with my quarterbacks and the kids I coach is composure, for one, and being able to stay composed, and so that you can still process, your checklist and where your eyes got to be and what you have to do with the ball. But also just the aspect of visualization and being able to already know what you're supposed to do when those things happen. If you've practiced it 100 times in your head, all these different scenarios, and when you see those scenarios, they're not as shocking. Or like you said, when the cars start flying, you're kind of anticipating those cars flying, and you know what to do. Oh, this car hit me here, or this car is coming over here, I got to go over here. So, yeah.
But when you take a big hit and you got to, you're in a 3rd and long, or a 2nd and long, I should say, a guaranteed passing situation where they can bring a certain amount of pressure.
Yeah.
When you've taken a big hit, does that, I know it's next play mentality, but when you're feeling it, how hard is it to sort of know that the hit might be coming and still throw through that?
For me, honestly, I was a bit of a crazy quarterback. I loved contact, so I think that it didn't bother me that much. I was ready for it. For me, I was just trying to deliver a good ball, and I was pretty fast when I used to play, so I was okay with running around a little bit and trying to find the open guy as well, or trying to take the ball down for a first down. So yeah, no, I kind of embraced contact for sure. So, but I think that's part of what made me a competitor. So.
Did your coach love that you embraced contact so much?
No, he always used to ask me, he's like, you're a baseball player. Why won't you slide? Why won't you slide? Go out of bounds. So.
Is there a pitcher or a quarterback that you look at and you're like, this guy's mental approach, this is how you go after the game?
There's no other answer other than Tom Brady. Honestly, he's, I think, the greatest of all time, because his mentality and his mental approach was just so strong that, like he said before, I've watched, his podcasts and stuff, and when he talks, and he's like, I already knew what they were going to do before they did, and I think it's that mental preparation as much as it is, just understanding the game and putting in those reps mentally over and over again. Like I said, visualizing, right? Being able to visualize what's going to happen beforehand and kind of make that successful decision. Yeah.
So you transitioned from quarterback at U of T and you come over in 2023 to McMaster to become a pitcher. How'd you get welcomed over, and what was that transition initially like?
Yeah, it was kind of interesting because I also did a grade 13 victory lap in high school. So when I came over, I was the same age as all the senior guys. So even though I was a rookie, I was one of the oldest on the team. So that was kind of an interesting dynamic at first, but I think that the team was great. Adam Strongman, our head coach, he's been amazing, had an amazing impact in Hamilton baseball, really. He's been coaching me since I was a kid, probably as young as 12 years old. So I'd known Adam for a really long time and played baseball with some of the guys on the team growing up with the Hamilton Cardinals. And so I was really excited to come over and kind of be able to bring that competitive edge that I had from football, and had kind of evolved from football. And I had taken a 4-year break from baseball. I hadn't played a baseball game for 4 years with COVID and then with training and focusing on football. So yeah, honestly, I remember coming into my first winter camp, and I couldn't actually play the first year that I wanted to because of the transfer process. So I kind of lost 1 year there, but I was able to come in, and I was supposed to be a catcher my first year. And then I begged and begged our head coach to let me pitch, and then I threw some balls off the mound, and we didn't have a ton of pitchers the year I came in. So he said, Seth, you're pitching now. And I was like, well, I'm still going to hit, right? And he said, nope. And that was really the end of it. I tried to convince him for a long time, but yeah, I was on the mound from that point on.
Okay, so you spent 3 seasons on the mound with McMaster, and while you transition over for schools, transition sports, and you're one of the founding members, if I'm correct, of the Indigenous Student Athlete Council, one of the co-presidents. Yeah. You're navigating all of that, trying to be a student as well. How did you become a founding member of this council?
Honestly, I think it was somewhat by chance, somewhat by, we have a pretty small Indigenous student athlete population. So we all got reached out to from some people from ISS, which is our Indigenous Student Services, which has been just an amazing space for all of us. So supportive and welcoming. And they reached out to us. It was me, Emma, Olivia, and Lucan. We were the 4 people. Lucan's now my co-president as well. Shout out you guys. And it was a really cool transition to be able to kind of come right in and have something like that, and that kind of build that community. And that's what it really was trying to support other Indigenous student athletes. That was the purpose of the council, right? And try to connect with each other, and also connect each other to resources and stuff, because there's a lot of supports that ISS offers for us. So
you mentioned the word connect there, and in the documentary that we're getting a short look at here, 2 Feet in Your Canoe, the word connect is peppered throughout this short film. That term, connection in your community, why is that term so important to you?
Oh man, that's a deep question. I think that's really what it's all about. And when I say it, like, I think that's what life is about, being able to connect with each other, connect with community. I think that's what sports does such a fantastic job at. And I think, in my culture, that community is such a huge part. It's the center of a lot of our beliefs, and I think it supports us, right? And you look at anybody, Indigenous, non-Indigenous, being able to connect with each other and have those communities. It's really kind of that space where you can learn about yourself, and you can develop as a person and as an athlete. And I think, again, that's what sports does such a great job at, is building that community. And I've learned so much about myself through sport and through those different communities, and through ISAC, through the Indigenous Student Athlete Council, and connecting with other students. I think that connection is what helps us kind of find our place, find what we like, what we don't like, find what our strengths are, weaknesses are. I really think connection is such a crucial piece in developing as a young person.
The director of Indigenous Student Services, Chrissy Doolittle at McMaster, said the connection to your identity and your roots leads to success for students. You've learned that firsthand.
Yes.
Like, the success, what kind of successes have you enjoyed? Not necessarily wins and losses, but what kinds of successes have you enjoyed, whether it's on the field or in the classroom or anywhere in your McMaster life? What kind of successes have you enjoyed as a result of this connection?
Yeah, honestly, being able to really connect with my identity at McMaster specifically, I think ISS has really helped me just dive right into that part of me, and really kind of let it flourish. And I think the biggest thing that I've found through that, the biggest success in my mind, has been balance, and that's something that I think a lot of people talk about, but we don't all practice it day to day. A lot of us, especially as athletes, we're training, we're pushing the body really hard, we're pushing that physical aspect really hard, and that mental aspect, but sometimes we forget to take care of that emotional and that spiritual aspect of all of us, and we see that in my teachings in the medicine wheel, those 4 parts of our being, and I think that's really what I've found through McMaster, through ISS, and through that connection to my identity, is balance, and really being able to nurture that and kind of keep all those 4 parts, those 4 equal parts that are supposed to be equal, keep them in balance. So, yeah.
And there's a space in that video that McMaster created where everyone connects. There was, I think it was Maddie Lutz doing, beating? Mm-hmm. And there's smudging as well.
Yeah.
Could you explain to our audience what smudging is and how that connects to your roots?
Yeah. There's some parts that are ceremonial that we don't always talk about in public spaces, but for the most part, I think it's just that whole space at ISS, it shares the sense of security, the sense of safety that we can practice, all of our cultural teachings and our cultural practices, and being able to have a safe space to smudge. And smudging really is about keeping that balance and having that connection to creator, and having that connection to the land and our medicines. Like, I think that was a huge thing for me coming into the space, being able to have access to traditional medicines and cultural practices was really important. Just being able to be around other students that understand what that really is, like the impact that has on you as a student, as an athlete, and as like an Indigenous person, as a human being walking on this earth, right? And so I think really it's that security that space have, that safety, that sense of belonging that we all really connect to through that space.
Do you know the lacrosse athlete Cody Jamieson?
I've heard the name, but I'm not familiar, to be honest.
So he plays for the Six Nations of the Grand River lacrosse team, an incredible, like, nationwide powerhouse of a lacrosse team, and he's a former NLL MVP as well.
Wow. Okay.
And one thing he speaks about is he equates lacrosse with medicine.
Yes. Yeah.
Does that resonate with you? Does playing baseball, playing football, does that provide medicine for you?
Yeah, like I'll say that from what I know, I'm Anishinaabe, but for Haudenosaunee people, lacrosse is a medicine game. They call it, creator's game that was given to them by creator. So that game in particular has like a really deeper meaning. But for me, I think sport definitely has been medicine for me. Whether it's football or baseball or whatever other sport that I happen to be playing, and I think it's that, like, honestly, that privilege that I have to go out and play my sport and be able to challenge my body, challenge my mind, challenge my spirit, really, and I always have said baseball's a game of failure, and has really allowed me to develop and grow my, learn myself emotionally and be able to control those emotions. Because I remember as a kid, it was so difficult for me to handle failure. Sometimes I'd get so mad at myself and be hard on myself. I wouldn't get mad at my teammates, but if I'd struck out, I was just like, oh man, like, you're so stupid. Like, how could you do that? And you go through that, like, self-talk and developing that self-talk, right? And the best in the world get paid to fail 7 out of 10 times, and that's why I've always believed, even having played football, and you hear Tom Brady and some of these other guys say it, Deion Sanders said it, baseball to me is the hardest sport to play. It's the hardest sport to find success in, and that's why I love it though too, right? Is that challenge and that level of compete and just that the precision, right, that it takes. Like, you could be off just by that much, and it's the difference between hitting the grand slam to send the Jays to the championship game or striking out, right? So,
who's a precise baseball player that you look up to?
Oh man, that's a hard question. I think I look to pitchers a lot. There's a lot of different pitchers, that I always looked up to. I'm trying to think of a current player. One player I think has always stood out to me, and his level of compete, his level of compete, and is just like pure gamer, we call him, is Max Scherzer. I've always loved Mad Max, so I think he's fantastic in the way that he thinks about the game and approaches the game is like, you're not going to beat me, I'm going to beat you, and even if you do get the better of me, it's probably because I messed up, and kind of that mentality I've always resonated with. He's
got that famous during the playoffs where Schneider comes out to potentially take him out.
Oh yeah,
and Scherzer says in different terms that it's not happening.
Yeah.
But I watched someone like Scherzer, and he's got a plan going into an outing, and then he might give up a home run in the first inning, and then it looks like he's just burning inside, and you figure that's going to take him out of his game. But sometimes, for some athletes, I'm not sure how big of a tennis fan you are, but Andy Murray is a 3-time Grand Slam champion, and some of his old coaches say Andy Murray is happiest when he's miserable.
Yeah.
And Scherzer, he doesn't seem happy, and everyone's, I suppose, has a different approach, but he seems like he's burning on the mound, and yet he's able to, I don't know if it's harness it or use it to sort of fuel him to go on. How do you see that sort of mental approach, and how different guys find a way to channel it after a failure, maybe the pitch before or the outing before?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, because I think it's kind of debated amongst people a lot of times too, and coaches too have different approaches to this. I know for me, I've had similar talks with coaches, like where, the other team's chirping or you're going back and forth and you're really fired up. Like, a lot of coaches don't want you to go like that, right? Because there's big ups and downs. But for me, like, I always tried to stay at that kind of like higher intense level as well. Like, and kind of look to Max Scherzer as like, just like, I'm using everything, like, or, in that Michael Jordan documentary, he said, that's all I needed, and you hear that one chirp and it's like, thank you very much. And from that point on, it's kind of like, doesn't matter what you say, or even if I mess up, it's like, I have that extra bit of motivation now. And it kind of gets me a little crazy on the mound and be like, like, you're not beating me now.
And that's helpful.
Yeah, I find I really channel it. I use it. Like, I love it. Like, my teammates sometimes like, oh, don't respond to the other team, and that's good practice for a lot of the young pitchers. It's like, don't respond to the other team, don't react. But as you get older and you learn yourself a little bit more, for me, like, staying at that intense level helped me be a successful competitor.
So you notice that some people are better off not responding necessarily,
100%,
and others are better off. And you're a coach now of quarterbacks anyway. Do you coach in baseball at all as well? Okay, so are you noticing certain kids respond to this level of motivation, like a kick in the butt? Certain kids respond with a more nurturing sense. Have you noticed that and applied it for them?
Oh yeah, I don't think you can have like kind of like a uniform approach with coaching. You have to. I think a good coach understands who they're talking to, and I think that's something that's not always talked about enough, and understanding like what motivates which kid, or like what they need in that moment. And sometimes it's best to just leave them alone too, after a failure or even after a success. It's just like, some kids just need to process it on their own, and then they'll come to you when they kind of need that advice, or figure out how to fix it, or figure out how to repeat that success. But as a player and a coach, I found like it really just depends. Some guys, they don't like getting all amped up and excited. They just need to stay level. Some guys like Max, like, he doesn't even want to be talked to. Like, he stays on his own, and it's like, hey, don't talk to him. Like, he's on a roll. Like, just leave him be. But then some guys like being involved in the chatter and being up with the team, So I really think it just depends on who you are, what type of player you are, and that just comes with time and experience. But as a coach, I think for the most part, like, I always try to teach, like we joke sometimes from, say the quote from Top Gun, stay frosty, like just stay level, stay icy, like, don't get too high, don't get too low. You want to try to stay as composed as possible, even whether that's, and I think that's how even I apply it, like whether your line's up here or your line's down here, it's just, you want to stay at that level for as long as you can and be consistent there. So,
Is there a kid that you've coached that came in maybe with a certain mindset and didn't have initial success, and you feel like you had some effect on them based on your approach, and not that you're going to attribute all their success to what you may have said to them,
sure,
but is there a kid you can think of that you maybe took under your wing and sort of pushed them forward to a height maybe they didn't see themselves reaching?
Yeah, honestly, like, I think especially in the game of football, you see kids, especially at our high school. I think we have a pretty great group of kids at Westmount Secondary School, where I coach.
You went to school there as a kid, right?
Yes, that's also where I went to high school, yeah. And I think you see a lot of, like, well-mannered kids, very good kids that come in and are quiet, and then they find football and they find this tenacity and this level of intensity and aggression. And I think I've been able to bring that out in some people. Like we always say on our team, like, when you cross those white lines, you can be whoever you want to be. You might be this quiet, nice, smart kid in the class, but when you come on the field, you can be a beast. You can kind of let it all out. And I've seen some kids really flip that switch, and it's crazy. Like, and then they come on the sideline, they're like, yes coach, sorry coach, like, and they kind of snap back into like their normal self, you know. But there's been a few kids. This one kid actually, he's coached with me now a few times. He played at McMaster, Luke Payne, my guy, and we used to talk. He was one of the nicest kids you'll ever meet, but sometimes we wanted him to be that mean guy because he was a D lineman, you know, and you got to be nasty sometimes. And I actually told him this story about a pitcher I used to watch, Jonathan Papelbon.
Okay. Oh yeah, very intense closer. Yeah.
Intense closer, right? And he used to have what we called the Papelbon stare, and where he'd be locked eyes with that guy. He'd wear like the low brim cap, and he'd just be looking in, staring at you. And so I told Luke about this guy, and I was like, give him the Papelbon stare, man. And we were talking the other day actually, and he told me how he used to do it, and his whole thing was like, if I could stare at that guy, as soon as they looked away from me, I knew I got them, you know. And so that was kind of cool to hear. And yeah, Luke ended up becoming quite the beast himself, and he was a nasty guy on the line. So yeah.
It's a very similar thing that Mike Tyson said when he went, you know, when you go to the middle of the ring, as they lay out the rules, and he said, you know, I look in their eyes as soon as they look away, I know I got them, and that is a killer's mentality. And it's awesome to see that you've brought along so many kids with your leadership. And so this is your 5th year undergrad, and the season's done. Obviously, you're going to continue to coach, I assume. Is there more potential pitching with McMaster happening, or that's probably not going to be it?
Yeah,
not sure.
Honestly, like it would be great to play baseball forever. You know, I wish my arm had more bullets in it. You know, but this year especially, I was experiencing some shoulder stuff, and so maybe down the line in other areas. And I'd love to come back and coach one day with Mac and some of the guys, and you know, do my own coaching on the side. But yeah, I think for right now, I've pitched my last game for right now at Mac. So
okay, well, you may have pitched your last game, but you have made an impact.
I appreciate that.
For your team and for the kids. That's going to continue on as you continue your coaching career, so which is incredible. And obviously is your leadership in your community, another incredible accolade that you should be proud of. So listen, Seth, congrats on all of that. Thanks so much for coming in.
Of course.
And good luck with wherever your baseball career takes you.
Thank you.
All right, that is Seth Cabezas, McMaster pitching legend at this stage. And that is your Sportsline podcast for the day. As you have seen, we love talking sports. If you know of an athlete, team, or event to promote, the Sportsline podcast wants to hear from you. Please hit the thumbs up, like, and subscribe button. If you have something to say, please comment. For the wonderful people that make the Sportsline podcast possible, thank you, and we will see you next time.